When is it too late to start saving and investing? What we do on this channel, folks, Million Dollars Made Easy, create spreadsheets to kind of answer questions like this. So let's say, for example, you're 46 years old and all you've been able to do is save up like $25,000 towards your nest egg. And you can figure you can save about $350 a month, and you increase that by like 3% a year. One of the first things we need to do is, what are you going to get from Social Security? You say, well, how in the world am I going to know that? You can actually go to Social Security quick calculator, type in your birth date, how much you currently make, and you can ask for it to give you what you're going to get at age 67 in $25. So that's going to be $2,200. Because don't forget to take into account Social Security. So we're going to get $2,200 from Social Security. Now, what are your expected expenses going to be? Again, how are you going to know that? Well, let's say, for example, you're living on 60,000 right now, and you can figure you're going to need 80% of that once you reach retirement, which is what lots of people say you need 80%. So that would be $4,800 a month. That's what you're going to need. Now, that's what you need right now. Again, we're projecting ahead 21 years what you're going to need. In 21 years at a 3% inflation rate, you're going to need 8,929 from your nest egg. If you're getting this 2,200, that's also going to grow because every year Social Security grows by a COLA. This year it was 2.5%. Just bear with me. I'm going to show you a lot of numbers here that's going to really impress you to see where you might be and how much you might need to save. So 36.95. In other words, this is your expected expenses in 21 years. This is your expected Social Security in 21 years. Excuse me. You're going to be 5,234 from your nest egg. Let's go ahead and run the numbers. Again, what we do on this channel, folks, we use the numbers for the returns for the S&P 500 for the last 100 years, including the depression type years. We kind of look at a worst case scenario and everything in between up to some of the best case scenarios. And we simply run the numbers to see where you might be. We always just show you the worst case scenario that would have happened in the last 100 years using returns going forward for the last 100 years. The fifth worst, the 10th worst, and so on, the median. And we show you how long your money would last if we had this situation, the worst case scenario. You were able to save $350 a month, starting with $25,000. Then once you reach retirement, you would have, after 21 years, you'd have $314,000. Again, that's the worst case scenario. The fifth worst case is $330,000. I always like to look in this column right here, meaning 90% of the time you'd be okay, or whatever this is showing you. 10% of the time you'd have these kind of numbers. And the median is right here, 21 years. It's $609,000 for the median column. What we do is change these numbers. This is the time period that you would run out of money if we had the worst case scenario given these numbers. In this case, you'd run out of money in 7 years. In other words, you'd get to this 21st year, you'd have 314,000. You start taking out this 5,234 a month, and in 7 short years, you'd be out of money. So when's it too late to start saving and investing? 46 years old, is that too late? Well, if you're going to just save $350 a month, well, watch what happens when we start changing some of these numbers. Again, we're kind of looking at this row right here. The worst case, the fifth worst, the 10th worst, and so on. This is all in the last 100 years. What happens if we increase that to $500 a month? Watch how these numbers all change. $500 a month. Now it's lasting at least 11 years, even in the worst case scenario. You need to go up to $700 a month. Now we're lasting at least 25 years. Well, if you're at age 67, that's getting you to age 92, but you can see how much more you need to save because you waited till you were age 46 to really get serious about saving some money. It's going to take you more. Again, we're starting with 25,000. If you had more than that at age 46, say, for example, watch how these numbers all change. Let's go back to $500 a month just to show you how these numbers change. 11, 13, and 19. If you happen to have 50,000 saved up by age 46, watch how much it changes. I'm going to hit return. It's going to change all these numbers because you have $25,000 more compounding over the next 21 years. Now your money's lasting in the worst case scenario, 23 years, the fifth worst, 35 years, And this column, I like to look at 90% of the time, your money would last over 40 years. Again, we're using returns for the last 100 years. So 90% of the time, if you had this kind of money saved up at age 46, it could save this much a month, your money would not run out given the historical returns for the last 100 years. Now, let's do one more thing. Let's say you want to start retiring a little bit earlier. Again, you got a 90% success rate of your money not running out with these kind of numbers. But what happens if we go to age 66, which means one less year for these monies to grow and one less year for Social Security? And you're no longer going to get 100% of your Social Security. You're going to get 893.3. Now, in 90% of the time, or 10% of the time, your money would run out in 26 years. Worst case scenario in 14 years. You can see how all these numbers change just by changing that 1 year. Let's do a couple other things here. Let's say you actually have this money. Watch this, folks. Let's go back to the 25,000 that we had before. So we're running out of money in 11 years if we retire at age 67. What happens if you had this kind of sums just 2 years earlier? Watch how these numbers change. Just 2 years earlier, we're going to change it to age 44. Saving the same amount, having the same amount to begin with. Age 44, watch how these numbers change, especially the worst case scenario. Now it's lasting 25 years before you run out. And again, folks, remember this column is the worst case scenario. The fifth worst, your money would last 29 years before it ran out. Well, that gets you to age 96 right there. So it looks like $500 a month, even at age 44. If you already got some saved up, you're going to be in good shape. Most every scenario, 90% of the time, your money would not run out. Again, this is all based on what you're getting for Social Security, what your expected expenses are. Let's change some other things. Just to show you how just changing these numbers can drastically change things. Okay, let's go back to the age 46, what we initially started with. Let's say, for example, we see we're running out of money in 11 years in the worst case scenario, 13 in the worst 5% of time, and the 10th worst 19 years. What happens if you just change your expenses? What if you just go down to 4,600? Again, I'm going to hit enter here, and all these numbers across there are going to change because you need $200 less a month. Watch how they change. Now we're up to 37 years. If we go to 4,500, I think you're going to see now it's lasting over 40 years, 85% of the time. And in the worst 10% of the time, your money's running out in 28 years. Again, because the worst case scenario was so bad, because we have returns like this kind of decade right here, then you're going to have to save a lot more if we would happen to have the worst case scenario in the last 100 years. But we can change any of these numbers, but it's so important to see at what age you start saving. For example, if you don't have anything saved, you're running out of money really quick. But what if you realize that at age 40? Watch the difference going from 46 to age 40. Look at that. This started 6 years earlier. There's $500 a month. You do not run out of money, even in the worst case scenario. Let's go to 41. Now you're running out of money in 31 years. Well, you'd be 98 by that. And again, this is the worst case scenario. See how important it is to get started younger? Again, we're using $500 a month. If we went back to, like, for example, 38 years and you could save $350 a month. Look at that, folks. See the difference? 38 years, age 67, 29 years for it to compound, and saving just $350 a month. You would not run out of money even in the worst case scenario. You can see it's almost an infinite number of variables that we can use here. What happens if you wanted to retire at age 65 instead of age 67? See if this numbers change much in the worst case scenario. Age 65. Yeah, now you're running money a lot quicker. Look at the difference just that 2 years made. You have less years for this money to compound, but you only get 86.7% of what you would get at age 67 because you're taking it at age 65. How about age 66? At age 67, you're fine, but going down any earlier, starting with 38. Now, if you want to go at age 65, and you want to see how much you'd need to save, let's go back to 450, 500. Now, $500 a month, age 38, you have nothing saved, and you want to retire at age 65. then your money would not run out in the worst case scenario. Again, I always like to look at this column right here just to try to get this over 40 years so your money's not running out. I'm not really too concerned about the absolute worst case scenario in the last 100 years, but I want to have a 90% success rate. That's why I like to use this column right here. Let's see if we go to $450 a month, $400 a month. Okay, $400 a month looks like it's kind of the limit. Maybe 450 would look like you'd pretty much be assured that your money's going to last, saving $450 a month if you don't have a dime saved at age 38. Now watch the difference. This is retiring at age 65, by the way. Watch what the difference is if you just have a little bit more saved. At 2,500, let's say you have 25,000 saved up. Watch how these numbers change again. Well over 40 years in even the worst case scenario. What if it happens if you retire at age 64? Still you're okay. See the key, that 25,000? Sometimes people think, oh, I'm late in my late 30s and I haven't been able to save very much. But look at that difference between not having anything saved and having 25,000 saved. Let's go to age 63 and see how it changes. Still, you're not running out of money. How about age 62? Finally, at age 62, because you only have 24 years till you retire, 24 years for these amounts to compound. Then you have an issue in the worst case scenario. But we can run any kind of numbers here, but you can see how important it is. What are your expected expenses? What are you going to get from Social Security? How much do you currently have saved? And then we can go ahead and change these numbers to see what it might take to make sure you have enough saved up, at least to have a 90% success rate. Now, right now with these numbers, you got a 90% success that your money would last at least 35 years. If we go to $400 a month, then it drops down to 27, $350 a month gets kind of iffy, and you're running out of money in 20 years if you want to retire at age 62. But see how important it is to change all these different variables. You change your expenses. If you go back and say you need 5,000 a month, then watch how that changes. I'm just showing you all the different variables. Now you're out of money in 11 years, 10% of the time. So what would you have to do? Obviously, you have to save a lot more. Let's go ahead and save $600 a month. Now your money's lasting, not running out. It's lasting at least 40 years, but you have to save a whole lot more because you're trying to retire at age 62. You're comfortable saving $500 a month, not comfortable with running out of money in 27 years. What happens if you go to age 63? Now your money's lasting over 40 years. Again, this is a column where you have a 90% success rate if your money not running out. Obviously, if you look at the worst case scenario, you're going to really have to save a lot more, have a lot more of a beginning balance, or start earlier, or you might be in a situation where you might be running out of money. But you can see how important it is when you take Social Security, how much you actually have to save. Again, how much you're getting from Social Security. Folks, that's what we do on this channel. We just love setting up spreadsheets, running numbers for people. You can just see all the different variables that you need to take into account when you retire, all these different variables. We just love running numbers for people. Please consider subscribing. Please share this with other people. Let them know there's a channel out there that'll run all kinds of different numbers for people. We've set up dozens of different spreadsheets. This is one of those that we like to use. This to show you how every variable makes a huge difference. Thanks so much for watching, and please like the video.